If you're new to our channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.
So when it comes to choosing a greenhouse, many people have greenhouses, many people want greenhouses, but many people can't have greenhouses for a vast variety of reasons, whether it's homeowner associations, finances, or space.
Or even the city you live in. Sometimes you have to get a permit.
Yeah, permit.
Because it's basically like a building.
And if you run electricity to it, that's a whole other mess that you got to go through red tape.
So one thing we do want to mention is that there's this really great company they're out of Madison, but they go throughout the Midwest, Wisconsin Greenhouse Company, and they build greenhouses. They make greenhouses. Customized.
Whether you want them on your house, attached to your house, you want them in the backyard, you want an octagon, a pentagon, a square, a cube, whatever, they can do all of that.
Yeah, they can do glass and that poly, whatever.
The plastic.
Multi-layer. So there's
and if you want to put it together, they'll ship it to you. If you want them to put it together, they'll come to your property and put it together and all of that. But there's things that you need to be aware of before you choose to purchase and or buy a greenhouse of whatever size in your backyard. So we want to cover some of these important aspects of it. Number one is, what environment do you want your plants to have? What are you intending to grow in that greenhouse?
Because some people will grow just tropical plants in their greenhouse. Some people will just use their greenhouse to start plants, and then once the plants are started, they might use it to sit in as like a three-season type porch. So there's definitely, you got to think about what you're going to do with it.
And if it's going to be heated, non-heated, there's going to have to be some kind of ventilation, whether you're building or, that type of thing, building or buying. Where are you going to put this thing at? That's the other thing. I want to have a greenhouse. Before you even look online at greenhouses, whether you buy or build, let's check, like you said, Holly, check with your ordinance. Are you even able to have a structure of that on your property? Regardless if you want to, whatever the government, that's a whole other story for another day.
Some cities' ordinances require you, if you're just going to redo your porch, you have to get a permit. So definitely think about that. You also want to think about where you're going to put it. Now you might think, I'm going to put it in the back corner of my yard, and it'll be a nice little oasis for me, getaway. But if you want to use that greenhouse in the middle of January as a nice little getaway, you're going to shovel a path.
Or how far away from adjacent properties you have to have.
Well, that too, right. So you have to keep that in mind, is where you're going to put it and how you're going to use it, and then at that point think, okay, I'm not going to use it at all when there's 3 feet of snow on the ground.
How big are we going to make this? How big do you need to make it? Because we've talked to Jordan, the owner of Wisconsin Greenhouse Company, and he has said people will say, hey, I want this size. But realistically, when you put trays and shelving in there and you need a walk path, things get real small real fast.
Definitely,
so you almost, it's an investment, whether you build or buy, and you want to have adequate space. You don't want to get a greenhouse that, I'm picking arbitrary numbers, 8 foot by 8 foot, and then you put everything in there and you realize it's about half the size that you actually need to accomplish the goals in which you want to achieve by starting seeds indoors, by whatever. If it's too small, you're going to be disappointed. You've wasted a lot of time, effort, money, the whole deal when it comes to getting a greenhouse.
Definitely. Now, so we talked about where and the size,
materials,
and then you got to talk materials. So, if you're going to build your own greenhouse, anything from wood, aluminum, plastic. Plastic is depending on the thickness. So, like you might do like a what's it called, a drop cloth plastic, or you could do like a thicker plastic, like that polymer. Sometimes you can find items. There's a lot of stuff on people on like the web Facebook, the sale groups. Sometimes they're getting rid of stuff, or even like Craigslist. There's still a lot of stuff for selling Craigslist. So you have to think about that, and then the framing. So the wood, or if you have some aluminum or whatever.
What your intentions are there. What type of material? What you need to accomplish? What type of and all these glass and plastic and poly, all this stuff has different effects in the environment. The way it absorbs the light and reflects and heats the internal portions of the greenhouse and all of that to go ahead. Freestanding or attached. You can go online and find a lot of little greenhouses that are attached to the side of the house where you walk. It's almost like a 3-season porch to an extent, but it's a greenhouse. And then if you really want to get technical, how much is that going to help control the heat that's in the house during the wintertime, because the radiation will warm that room and you can vent it in the house. Getting a little technical here, but something to keep in mind, based on how you want your greenhouse to go about being.
And if you want to be, a lot of us are moving away from being too reliant on fossil fuels. So you could do something where you heat your greenhouse with compost. That's a very common thing. It's a little different, but if you can do it effectively and efficiently, then you could definitely A, save some money, and B, it's more environmentally friendly.
And the next thing here is orientation of the greenhouse. Where can you put it on your property? Where can you build it on your property that it's going to get the most bang for the dollar? Don't put it underneath a tree. Do you have trees? If the whole backyard is shady with trees, the effectiveness of a greenhouse not going to be so good. There's a garden speaker from Texas, and he says if you have trees, there's a tool that you apply it to the base of the tree, and it takes the tree down. We're not asking you to take trees out of the backyard, but if you're going to put a greenhouse, you want to make sure that it's going to be effective in what you're doing.
Right. So you want to think about that, the orientation and where you're putting it. And then another thing is that you definitely I think the biggest thing is considering the investment that it is, not just the dollars, but your time to get it set up, and then also just doing all the research and things like that.
And if you're going to stay in your home for many years, if you're going, okay, this is where I'm going to stay forever, makes sense, and you want to build a greenhouse, it makes sense. The investment is there. The problem is, if you build a greenhouse and go through all the procedures in which, can you take it with you if you choose to move? Is it going to, if the next people move in, they don't want a greenhouse, what are you going to do? That's the other thing. And greenhouses can be a beautiful addition, and I would assume, based on the materials and how it's built or all that, it can add value to the home as well.
It definitely can, because a lot of people, especially if it's a nice built greenhouse that looks real pretty and something they can use year round.
Not some junk you threw together that you found.
Right. And there's anything wrong with that. But if you're going to throw some junk together, then don't be offended if the realtor says that you probably don't want that there when trying to sell your house. So you got to keep that in mind, that there's ones that may look nice and utilitarian, and there's ones that may look nice and enhance the value of the property.
Right. The investment of such to make it pretty and aesthetic for your property. But it's a great thing, because there are people that, like you talked about earlier, I talked about earlier, that grow tropicals. They can grow fruit trees, dwarf fruit trees, year-round in a greenhouse without any problem at all. So they're getting dwarf lime, dwarf pomegranate,
like bananas,
all that stuff that comes along with them.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.